Hey everyone, welcome to Motor Psychology from wherever you are on the planet. My name's Jonathan. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thanks so much for your support. Really appreciate it. So in today's video with this C3 Corvette behind me, I'm going to be finally taking out the radiator core support. So looks like a relatively easy job, but I wouldn't be surprised if something unusual happens. So we're going to get into that. With any luck, we'll get the new radiator core support in very, very soon as well, because I got to start rebuilding the front end of this Corvette here. So let's get into it and let's hope like F that this core support comes out without any issues. So let's do it and see how it goes. I have lots of work that I'm doing on this car here. I gotta get it done. It's so fun to work on though. I really love doing the work on it, but it's going to be even more fun to get back on the road very soon. So here's the core support down here. It runs across the front end of the car and also goes down, and this is the tray where the radiator sits on as well. So all that has to come out, and the main reason I'm changing it is I'm doing everything else. So I might as well do that, and plus it's rusty at the end, so got to replace it if I want to get this thing looking as new as possible. So ultimately on here, there's 3 large bolts that go on either side, and there's 2 on the very bottom which attach the core support. There may be some small bolts down here that are attaching the air conditioner heat exchanger as well. Hopefully it's not going to be too difficult to get that core support out. I would love to keep this in and just remove this and put the new one in. So let's start on it and we'll see how we get along. So I'm going to put some more penetrating oil in the sides just to prepare it. Okay, I'm going to show you some of the bolts that I have to put some penetrating oil on, and they are basically here and then down about maybe 6 or 7 inches, and there's one at the bottom about 6 or 7 inches. So let's get that thing sprayed. It's not the first time. I've sprayed this before. There's another one down here in the shadow, and another one right at the bottom. That was kind of a long distance squirt to get that one done. I'll do the same on the other side. This is on the driver's side. Give that one a spray. And I'm going to spray down to the other 2. So here we are looking inside the right front wheel well. And the bolts that I'm going to be undoing are right here and here. And there's another one down here. So I'm going to see if I can get those things off. Yeah, and like so many things with this Corvette, they're either 9/16 or a 1/2 inch, and these ones happen to be a 1/2 inch. So we'll try that, and hopefully they're going to budge, and that will mean that we've got some progress going on here. Oh. That one was very easy. So maybe this one will crack really easy as well. It's never that easy. Nope, that one's not budging. I need to show you where the other screw is. Okay, the other screw is located right down there. You see that? So that's the 3rd and final one for that side that I have to do. So I wasn't able to easily crack the middle one, so I'm going to use a breaker bar, and we know the top one is good to go. So we just have to worry about these 2. So hopefully they'll be pretty straightforward. All right, I found a breaker bar. I'm going to hook up my stuff and see if that works. Normally, something like this would work. Oh my God. that's using a breaker bar, and it's still a little bit hard to get off. Yeah. All right, that one moved. Let's try the one at the bottom. And so with the breaker bar, I was able to get the middle one done and the bottom one loosened without a problem. So shouldn't be too hard getting the other ones off. There's one of the screws out. Keep the washer. I'm going to be using these screws again to put in the new radiator core support. Moving down the line. Number 2 out. All right, let's hope the third one comes out well. So I got 3 of them out so far. So we've got the right hand side loosened. Now I have to just move on to the left hand side. So in order to get the left bolts for the core support out, I've got to remove the hinge for the hood, which I already had done on the other side. So I'm just going to do that right now. And once again, same with everything, 1/2 inch, unless otherwise advertised. That one I'm going to spray. Yeah, not liking how that one's sounding. Let's spray it. All right, just gonna reach over and spray this one. And the one that's closest to the front of the vehicle is really on there hard, so I want to let this penetrating oil work. It's supposed to be the original nut and bolt buster. It works really well and it's probably the best on the market. Now, do I get crazy and try and break that bolt right now? Let's see if it's going to loosen up. Let's give it a shot. That's not a bad way of loosening a seized on bolt. So I give it a little bit of a twist in the direction that I need to remove it, and then I move it back in the other direction, so to kind of tighten it, and then I loosen it, and then I tighten it, and I keep on doing that, and it tends to work pretty well as far as freeing up a loose bolt. Doesn't always work, as you're going to see, but it's not a bad technique opposed to just cranking it one way. So you kind of work it in both directions until you get it loose, like that. think we're good. Sounds all grimy and dirty. Oh no, the one that I wasn't expecting to break actually broke. In order to get access to the bolts that are holding the left side of the radiator core support, I've got to take the left front wheel off, and that way I can access the left front wheel well and unscrew those bolts that are keeping the core support in place on the left side. So this is pretty straightforward, just removing the tire and then getting into the wheel well to get those bolts out. I finally got these bolts out of the core support, so I'm going to put them in a baggie and label them and make sure that I don't lose them. So 3 per side, got them out, so just going to label it, put it in a baggie, and title it core support. So core support screws times 6. Fire them in the bag and then put them in my parts container. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to remove these bolts from the core support. So there's one here, and there is one way over there as well. So I'm going to get underneath the car, and I'm going to try and get these things off right now. These bolts here were on super tight, and I realized that there's no way that they're going to actually loosen, and it really didn't matter. So I used my breaker bar and a little bit of extra pressure with my feet for leverage, and both of these nuts actually broke right off. Not too important for me. The important part is to keep those brackets on either side. Those brackets are about $25 each, so there's nothing wrong with mine. I will be getting new bolts as a replacement, but the brackets themselves are fine. So I just decided I'm gonna bust off these and move ahead with the project. Woo. The tops of the nuts came off, so they'll need to be replaced, but should make it easier to get the core out now. Okay, this is the big core support, which I'm going to try and get out somehow. to get this out, I hope. This core support reminds me of a loose tooth. You can wiggle it, but you can't get it out. So right now I'm looking down both sides to try and figure out how I can get this out. Whether or not I'm going to elevate it out of the top of the C3 or whether or not I'm going to push it down through the bottom is undecided at this point. So I'm just checking it, seeing whether or not I can get it out, what it's snagging on, and where the tight spots are. So after having a look at it, the only way that I can get this core support out is by pushing it down through the bottom of the C3, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I wanted to lift the core support up, but it looks like it wants to go down a little bit easier. So it's stuck a little bit on that side. So I'm just going to try and lightly hammer it down. Same with that, and hopefully we'll be able to pop it out. So I'm not having too much luck pushing it through. Ideally it should have come up, but it slipped down into a tighter spot. It's stuck, so I'm going to use my cutoff wheel and cut down the middle of the core support, and then it'll come out nicely. Finish it off from underneath. Yeah, easy. There we go. I'm using some penetrating oil down here on the front sway bar bolts. So there's 2 bolts on the left side and 2 bolts on the right side, and I'm just doing that from the top and bottom because I'm going to be removing this sway bar and refreshing it, putting in new bushings and new bolts. So might as well get that done as soon as possible, and that also will give me a little bit more room inside the engine bay to work with the water pump and power steering pump as well. There's the old core support right here. Seen the worst of the days there. We don't need this anymore, so this is going out in the scrap metal. And this particular one I got from Corvette Central, and I'm just going to open it and have a look at it. Lots of great packing material, and out comes the brand new core support, which incidentally, the core support are around $500. So they're not cheap, but they're essential at the same time. So before I pull this out, these core supports are about $500, and that includes shipping. So they're not cheap, but they're essential as well. So let's pull this one out, have a look. Nice and solid. I'm going to repurpose some stuff on the old one, and very nicely packaged. Looks pretty decent. Should be a perfect fit, I hope. What I'm going to reuse is these little guys here. So these are radiator cushions. So the radiator will actually sit on this thing. And they go in these little holes here. So that cushion goes in there. That's perfect. I found the other radiator cushion that goes in the core support. This is from the old one. It'll go right in the end over there. So I'm going to stick that in. There, you can see where the 2 cushions are. So that's a great thing to get off the old core support, is the little cushions, which they would cost a bit of money, between $20 to $40, believe it or not. 20 to 30, let's say. So that's great. That core support is ready to go in once I finish up with the water pump. Hey everyone, that concludes the video on the core support for the C3 Corvette. I'm so glad I got that out. Now I can put the new core support in. At the end of the video, you saw me put some penetrating oil on the front sway bar. So I'm going to get that off, and I'm just giving it a couple days for those bolts to soak up the oil, and then I'm going to take the sway bar off. I've got new bushings. I'm going to refresh the sway bar and get that done. So also, by taking the sway bar out, it's going to give me a little bit more space to work on the water pump and the power steering pump as well. And that's what I've got on the go coming up this week. So I'll be replacing the water pump on the C3 and then also moving on to the power steering pump as well. So those are a couple of the things that I've got on the go. So if you like this type of stuff, consider subscribing. That would be greatly appreciated. And we'll see you all in the next video, which is coming up very, very soon.